I believe both countries' CEOs have common philosophy in management. And particularly, I come to believe this more and more during the last 3 years, participating in this China-Japan, Japan-China CEO Forum, Charles Yin started. But having said that, the situation is completely different between China and Japan. Yesterday's panel discussion, as I said, China is not the emerging country, re-emerging country. China has been dominating world economy for thousands of years, up until mid of 1700. And just because the Industrial Revolution took place in the Western world, and they had started the rapid economic growth, so only last 200 years or so, Asia was way behind from Western world. But if you look back our history, more than 1,000 years, Asia is leading the world economy, and that is just coming back again. And that is no question. China, Japan, those countries have a very, very high potential. Just because of several barriers, just made it impossible to exploit their ability. Open door policy started by Deng Xiaoping in 1977 or 78. Yeah, Chinese didn't have any opportunities to exploit their ability and entrepreneurship. But once the door was opened, look what happened in the last 30 years. It is just outstanding, amazing. But the reason why I said already, due to that, it is not surprise to me at all. And China will continue to prosper. Both countries' industries are so synergistic, help one another and get benefit one another. Electronic appliances is a good example. Japan has more advanced and high quality technology, and China has advantage of low-cost operation, manufacturing capability. But China is now putting more emphasis on the high-quality product to satisfy the more stringent demand from the wealthy people. And but China eventually will be caught up by India, who are right behind China. Because they have high science level and a very, very low income level, which enables low-cost manufacturing. So China will be put in Japan's situation now in maybe 10, 15, 20 years, or as long as 30 years. So China needs to be prepared to upgrade their manufacturing capability and the research and development capability. And also, China needs to shift the industry from heavily relying on secondary industry, manufacturing industry, to tertiary industry, which is a service industry. That's number one. And when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry, there are a lot of collaboration and synergistic opportunities between the two countries. Japan is only one country in Asia who can continuously research and develop patent protected, worldwide sellable pharmaceutical product. And even though China is aggressively pursuing this, trying to grow pharmaceutical industry, and Korea is doing the same thing, still yet to develop and launch any product which is sellable worldwide with the patent protection. So, but on the other hand, China, there are so many science parks, and also government subsidizes those biotech park, and where many entrepreneurs are starting the research and the discovery, and also many ex-Chinese people who have studied or lived in the United States are coming back seeing the great opportunity in their home country. And so there are many seeds target, very attractive seeds and the target for pharmaceutical compound are coming up, showing up, and emerging from Chinese entrepreneurs. But they don't know how to make those seeds and target to drug. And in that respect, Japan is very much high expertise and experience. So we can work together and help together to grow the Chinese pharmaceutical industry. That in that respect, we have I see the great synergy potential between us.
The reason we have founded the China-Japan CEO Forum, which is non-for-profit dialogue between the top leaders from China and Japan, is to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and wisdom of both countries. The top two reasons are, number one, Chinese companies in the last 30 years have experienced rapid growth, but Chinese companies at the same time are suffering the problem of low quality, poor reputation, and lack of credibility, 诚信. So, but Japanese companies, on the other hand, in the 60s and 70s, have experienced very similar challenges as we are in China today. Because as you know, in the 60s, the Japanese companies' products are known as very poor quality. And there's a lot of copycats, copyright issue in Japan. But in the last 20 years, Japanese companies and Japanese business leaders have worked very hard with consistency and built a lot of world-renowned brands and companies, which is respected by the world. So Chinese business leaders can learn a lot from Japanese companies. On the other hand, the Japanese companies have been doing business in China for the last 30 years, but they have, in the last 5 or 10 years, they have faced huge challenges. As you know, China is rising, and China is also rapidly changing. And Japan is not used to this kind of rapid change. So the Japanese business leaders also need to learn how to adapt to the rapid change of China. Because of these two reasons, we founded this forum. And through the last 3 years dialogue, we can see that both side leaders have learned and improved. First, let me talk from the Chinese side. We know, as you read from my book, that China and Japan has a lot of differences. One of the major differences is Japan Japanese companies emphasize on the plan and process. Whatever they do, they follow the PDCA cycle, which is plan, do, check, action. But for Chinese companies, because the environment is very, very changing, so we focus on speed, and we are very flexible. But Chinese company, for example, the founder of TCL, Mr. Li Dongsheng, he was our guest. He's a member of the China-Japan CEO Forum. He told us recently that because he started working with companies from Japan, he has learned to improve the quality of the management. He has learned to pay more attention to process and planning, although he has suffered some of the speed. But as a result, his company's quality and brand have improved significantly. On the other hand, for Japanese companies, the first year, what I said, most of the Japanese companies, they regard China as top priority, but the Japanese CEOs, most of them, don't visit China often, only once a year. Comparing with the Western company CEOs, they come here like Bill Gates, four times a year, right? So the Japanese CEOs who participated in the China-Japan CEO Forum have really listened to our advisors and observing the energy of Chinese business leaders and the speed of changes in China market. They have been visiting China more and more often, like 4 times a year. And like Mr. Hasegawa, he has been visiting China 4 times a year. So both sides, I would say, have learned a great deal from this China-Japan CEO Forum, which make us feel very rewarding. See, we are all business people ourselves. We are not a company doing this event. We are not an event company. We're a strategic investment, a long-term strategic investment company. But all of us, the members of management team, treat this China-Japan CEO Forum as our social responsibility, as our mission to make China-Japan business better, more competitive, and most importantly, more influential on the world stage. See, why is that? See, China and Japan, we have very good product in different way. Japanese product at very high quality, Chinese product is a very competitive price, right? But the world, and particularly in the US or Europe, they accept our product or services, but they don't accept our values or culture, or they don't understand. As I pointed in the forum, when people don't understand us, we don't try to criticize the other people. We first try to find out what are the areas as business leaders can do to help the world understand us better. So, therefore, this is my vision, that China, Japan business leaders can work together, send a bigger voice to the rest of the world. Because if China send the voice, Chinese, all of my friends, this is all billionaires, and all of them tell us the most number one desire is to get their company respected in the world. The people want to be respected, right? See, you want to get respected, you need to have this values or corporate culture. A company get respected not just because you sell low-price product, but because you have your spirit, you have the corporate culture. Then you can get respect, right? So that's why. But if one company or one country tell the world that we want to get respect, we have great product, we have a great company, but their voice is very small. But if China and Japan working together, we can make the voice much bigger.
In short, China is the most important ex-Japan single country for Takeda in the next 10, 15 years because it has the highest growth potential. If you look at the Chinese pharmaceutical market growth in last 5 years, on average more than 20% over year after year. And that trend will continue maybe at least for next 5 years or maybe 10 years at least. So given that factor alone, we cannot ignore. And on top of that, even though Takeda has been doing business, not only the sales marketing, but also manufacturing the pharmaceutical product in China last 17 years, because of many reasons, our business has not been growing as rapid and quick as we wanted. But as I said, since we have 100% ownership since this year January, taking that opportunity, we are making a great, very aggressive investment. And on top of that, to cover the emerging countries market very rapidly, we acquired a company headquartered in Zurich in Switzerland called Nycomed, who has a much bigger Chinese operation than Takeda. So combined, existing Takeda and the Nycomed, and the Nycomed acquired a joint venture with Shanghai Pharma called Techpool. All combined, it's close to 200 oku yen Japanese yen per annual sales, which is pretty significant. But still, we see the great growth opportunity. So maybe in the next 5 years, we can at least triple it, if not quadruple. So that's a kind of opportunity. So with that vision in our horizon, we are willing and actually making this significant hundreds of millions of investment upfront. Japan's market is much smaller than China because the population is 1/10, and also the population is declining, so domestic market economy is not growing. But at the moment, size of the GDP is more or less the same. China has passed Japan in GDP, annual GDP last year, but so a little bit bigger, and continue to pass Japan. But so in terms of the growth element for the market about the economy, Japan cannot contribute much. But on the contrary, China has 1.3 plus billion population and very rapidly growing, on average more than 9%, and continue to be like that way for at least 5 to 10 years, regardless of many challenges. Your government is controlling and managing the economy amazingly well. So in that respect, China can be the driving force of world economy, at least for next 10 years, if not 20 years. So that's the differences between Japan and China's economy. But when it comes to the outside of the country, both Japan and China, we have the joint purpose and the collaboration to help, for example, ASEAN countries' economy to grow and start up and grow more rapidly. In that respect, China and Japan are now finally conceptually agree to move forward and aggressively pursue ASEAN plus 6 free trade economy dialogue. ASEAN 10 countries plus China, Korea, Japan, and Australia, New Zealand, and India. There was the discussion about which one we should pursue, whether ASEAN plus 3 or ASEAN plus 6. But looking at the TPP's rapid progress, political leaders finally agreed to pursue ASEAN plus 6, which is a good one. But on top of that, China is also the very important member of the APEC and Asia Pacific Economic Committee or something like that. We are 21 countries the member of this APEC. And last year, APEC meeting held in Japan in November, all member countries agreed to create free trade organization concept agreement by 2020 amongst all the 21 membership countries. So regardless of TPP, regardless of ASEAN plus 3 or 6, ultimate goal is the same. And China and Japan needs to work together because we are the biggest and the most advanced economy in this part of the world.
Yes, I totally agree with Mr. Hasegawa. The China-Japan, now we are together, we're contributing to 15% of world GDP. And this number will be going higher and higher. So as economic leaders, we will shoulder more social responsibilities, not just to our own countries, but to Asia and to the rest of the world. And there are many areas that we can work together to make our societies and to make the world better. Number one, the world now is having a lot of problems, like the European economic crisis, right? And also you have the Wall Street protest, demonstration. This shows one value. The world cannot be dominated by one value. 就是普世价值. So we see 普世价值 now, the value is basically the Western value. That's not a healthy way. And because the one value, we see the Western value emphasizing on the person, individual, right? And individual can conquer the world. But our value for China and Japan, our value is that 共生 or coexistence. 就是人和自然 Man and nature coexist. We respect nature. We respect each other. If we share this value with the rest of the world, and we can make the world better. So this is number one. Japan and China can work together to share all value, 共生 or 共生 value, coexistent value, with the rest of the world, and make the world better, make the environment better. This is number one. Number two is that, as I said earlier, Chinese companies have our strengths. We're very fast, we're very flexible. We are very good at making low-price products. And Japanese company, on the other hand, they have very good process and quality control and technology. So by working together, we can help the world better, produce more product for the mass market with low price but good quality.
So in that respect, for the first encounter with Charles, I got the impression, and my intuition told me, this guy is a trustworthy guy. And on top of that, look at his track record in business. He studied in Japan, and he worked for the Xerox in Japan, and completely re-established Xerox Japan's operation in China in a very short period of time, working closely with Christina Takahashi. Those also track record tells me, he is a very, very entrepreneurial person. And on top of that, he has a strong vision and a desire, taking advantage of his background and career to, strengthen the bridge between China and Japan, taking his extra time beside his main business to starting this kind of China-Japan, Japan-China CEO forum. So with that vision, when I have heard that idea, again, is this again more or less a similar forum he wants to start? And there are so many similar ones, but the more in detail I listened to his vision and passion, I was more convinced. So I decided to help him out as much as possible. So and, this CEO forum is progressing more than the deeper and the better manner.
Because Mr. Hasegawa and I, we share one common mentor, Mr. Kobayashi Yotaro, 小林洋太郎. He is one of the business leader, Asia business leader that I respect the most. And we share the same value. We believe business leaders, not only we have to be strong, meaning 我们要有实力, right? We have to be strong in terms of making our company strong. Also, we have to be very kind to the society, contribute to society.
Not only the formal relationship between the government, but civil society level, the relationship, very, very multiple. Or in other words, if the government relationship or contact is track A, we need track B, track C, track D, track E, many, many multiple channels. And the more we understand each other better on a civil society basis, then the more easily we can overcome many problems we may face once in a while. Because people get emotional and skeptical if you don't know others' idea and the culture well. But once you get to know one another well, even if in the initial stage you have emotional explosion to accuse others, but always there are people who knows others very well can say, no, they didn't actually mean that, so we better take this more quietly and calmly, and try to understand better. Those are the things we need to do.
The number one thing to overcome the misunderstanding between the two countries, based on my experiences, managing American, Japanese, and Chinese joint ventures, is that first you have to understand, recognize the differences. So in my book, as you can see, there were like 20 major differences in terms of how we make decisions, right? In terms of how we select people, in terms of how the people choose the employers. And first, we got to understand the differences. Second, we need to anticipate the differences before problems occurred as business leader. So that's why I believe that China-Japan CEO Forum is one of the mechanisms to facilitate the exchange among the private sectors, to really understand each other's differences, respect the differences, but at the same time find a common ground so that we can grow together and make more companies from both sides and more successful. To reach another level, as I said in the forum yesterday, that our goal of the forum is to foster 10 most admired companies in the world in 5 to 10 years. And this could be, the people say this is my dream, but if you do the calculation, US economy now contributes 25% of the world economy, but they have 40 world most admired companies. China, Japan are contributing 15% of the world economy, but we only have 3 Japanese companies on the list of top world most admired companies. So if you think that way, in 5-10 years, we have 10 companies from China and Japan to be on the list is quite reasonable. So I believe with the total efforts of the business leader from China and Japan, we can make this vision or dream come true.